You know, will never understand the mind of a murderer. I can kind of understand, crimes of passion, where somebody finds somebody else cheating and they end up capping them. I don't condone it, but at least I can understand the motive a little bit. But to try to understand the mind of a person who would brutally kill someone for no reason, and especially children, someone without any provocation, without any reason, without any purpose, just outright killing somebody, taking a life, taking someone's child, taking someone's sister or brother for no reason. That's something I'll never understand, even though I've encountered it more than I would want to by far. Once is too many. But even after all that I have seen, there are certain things that still and will always bother me. When I got involved with Kylie's case, I did so because it tugged at my heartstrings. I'd been binge watching AWP videos and just happened to come across the video about Kylie Rodney's recovery, and that really tugged at me. Well, the other day, someone asked me, would I please look into the Delphi murders in Delphi, Indiana? And so I said I would, even though I really haven't been interested in looking into other cases, even the one, the Idaho 4 that occurred 250 miles away from where I live. I just couldn't get into it, just for whatever reason. Something has to really move me, has to really touch me in a certain way for me to really get committed and get into it, like I have done with Kylie's case. And so I looked into these Delphi murders, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of wishing that I hadn't, because this case has struck me the same way as Kylie's case. A 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old girl out for a hike in 2017 end up brutally murdered for no reason. They were out at a place not too far from town, and we're talking a town, Delphi, Indiana is a town of, right, as of 2021, the population was 2,972, which 3 years earlier it was like 3,100 something. So, but we're talking about roughly around the town of 3,000 people. Not a place where you would expect something like this to happen. But one thing I found out a long time ago is a lot of times, a lot of predators, a lot of weirdos sometimes will migrate to a smaller town where there's less police presence. And so you got some real weirdos involved in this case. This is a story about Abigail or Abby Williams, who you see right here, and Liberty German, or Libby. She went by Libby. They were like best buds. This picture here shows them together, obviously during the winter. Libby was 14. Abby, the smaller one, she was 13. They were on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2017. They were discovered near the Monon High Bridge Trail just outside of Delphi, Indiana, after the girls had disappeared from that trail the previous day. On October 26, 2022, 5 years later, a suspect was taken into custody. On October 31st, the suspect was charged with 2 counts of murder. On February 13th, 2017, at 1:35 p.m., 13-year-old Abby and 14-year-old Libby were dropped off by Libby's older sister, Kelsey German, on County Road 300 North. Now, this map I put together here, or this path on the map, shows basically where they would have been dropped off, and then shows the trail they would have walked, or the path they would have walked to that bridge. It's an old railroad bridge, the old steam engine bridge. So they were hiking on the Monon High Bridge Trail over Deer Creek, wooded area. In fact, the whole Delphi area is extremely, recreational for hikers. Has numerous paths, and it's just a nice little area. So that was at 1:35 p.m. They were dropped off. At 2:07 p.m., Libby posted this photo of Abby walking on the bridge. This is not too long before they encountered a man on the bridge, which we'll see here in a minute. Just to kind of give you an idea of the area, here's some pictures of the trail. I mean, it looks like a wonderful area to visit. I mean, it's, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. It's northwest of Indianapolis, but it's quite a ways northwest. It's in the country. It's not cityfied by any means. But you look at the pictures here, and you got one of the old railroad bridge that shows the picture of Abby walking on. And this is down below the bridge at the water, where the bodies were found. I don't know how close this area is to the actual location, but it just kind of gives you a layout. Here's looking up at the bridge from below. So, you see, it's a nice area, real nice area. The girls were reported missing at 5:30 p.m. that same day, after they didn't show up to meet Libby's dad. They were scheduled to meet them back at the main entrance to the trail at 3:15 p.m. The families initially searched for the girls themselves before calling the police. And the cops searched the area right away. But in the beginning, they didn't initially suspect foul play. Isn't it funny how they just never suspect foul play? See, like every case we dealt with, they don't suspect foul play. Why? I mean, I understand that kids disappeared. The kids don't always have the same time clock that parents do. But, they were supposed to meet Dad there at 3:15, and here it is 5:30. They're not there. As a cop, I would automatically think maybe something happened. But anyway, the cops didn't think there was any foul play involved. Why? I don't know. I don't understand that. But they soon found out that there was foul play involved because they found the girls' bodies the next day on the 14th, around noon, about a half a mile east of the bridge. The bodies were found on the north bank of Deer Creek. Now, if you look at my map here, that's the probable place where they were found, because it was near this Mr. Logan's property, and a half a mile east of the bridge. That would put it right where I've got it circled there. And then the next picture shows the proximity to Mr. Logan's residence. And that is his property where the bodies were found. And the thing is, the police have not released any details of how the girls were murdered. But as early as February 15th, 2017, the Indiana State Police began circulating a still image of an individual reportedly seen on the Manon High Bridge trail near where the two friends were slain. The photograph's kind of grainy, but it appears to be a white male, his hands in his pockets, head down, walking on the railroad bridge towards the girls. A few days later, the person in the photograph was named the prime suspect in the double homicide. Here is a quick video. This is actually from Libby's phone. The video, and law enforcement also released a short audio, which here is the audio. Okay, and all that you can hear him say is, "Guys down the hill." Which that one shot below the bridge was probably, in the pictures that I showed you, is probably right where they were. The cops said that Libby was somewhat of a hero because she had enough presence of mind and the guts to secretly record the exchange. Now, the video, or the audio, well, video and audio actually, is 43 seconds long. However, they only released this, like, it was a second and a half clip. But they said they would not release further details into what's on the phone so as to not compromise any future trial. Now, on July 17th, police distributed a composite sketch of someone sought as a person of prime interest in the murders. The sketch was apparently created from eyewitness accounts of a hiker on the Delphi historic trails the day the girls vanished. Okay, here is the composite sketch, and it shows a couple of different perspectives on the photo that Libby took with her phone. It was actually a video. But on April 22nd, 2019, the Indiana State Police announced a new direction in the case and released a new sketch of the suspect while urging the public to look at the sketch, listen to the audio, watch how the man walks on the bridge, and send tips to the tip line. Investigators stated they had reason to believe that the suspect might be hiding in plain sight and was almost certainly familiar with the Delphi area from living there, working there, or for other reasons. And an additional plea was made for help identifying the driver of a vehicle left abandoned off the Hoosier Heartland Highway in Delphi at the former Child Services office between noon and 5 p.m. on the day of the murders. All right, now, while we were trying to figure out who this guy was, which later turned out to be a man named Richard Allen, they ran across another guy called Keegan Klein. So Indiana State Police said that while investigating the case in December 2021, they uncovered a fake Snapchat and Instagram profile called Anthony Shots. Now, basically what Keegan was doing, he was catfishing girls. He was using the image of a model, in the picture that they showed on one website I was looking at. The guy has, he's not wearing a shirt and he's got, washboard stomach and just, he's a model. The guy's a well-known model, but apparently the girls didn't realize who he was. But anyway, he was using this model's pictures, and but anyway, he was active in 2016, 2017, portraying himself as being extremely wealthy and owning numerous sports cars. And what he was doing, by the way, he's been charged with 30 counts of child pornography, because what he was doing, he was catfishing girls. He was posing as this studly model, posting the model's pictures in there. And then he was encouraging underage girls to send him nude photos. Keegan himself was 27 years old. He was arrested in 2020 and charged with possession of child pornography and related charges. And he admitted to the police in 2020, he admitted that he was using the Anthony Shots profile on social media. And it turns out that he had been communicating with Libby. Now, this guy hasn't been charged with anything yet, but I don't know. I'm torn between on exactly what happened, because this guy is a total pervert. I mean, he's in prison right now, or in jail, and people like female journalists and stuff have been contacting him to try to get information, and he said, "Oh yeah, I will give you information, but I'm not going to do it for free." And so he was basically asking for sexual favors in return for information. I mean, the guy's a total, just a total pervert. I mean, but he denied killing Abby and Libby. However, he talked to Libby the night before they were killed, and he talked to Libby the day of the murders. And it actually talked about meeting at the bridge. at the railroad bridge there, where the picture of Abby, Libby took. Well, anyway, he tried to claim he didn't even remember talking to her, but he gave several different stories depending on who was interviewing him. However, they found a correspondence between him and somebody else where he said, "I was supposed to meet that girl, but she never showed up." But of course, he told the cops, "Oh, I would have never met with her." Baloney. Also, in the police report, Klein, they gave Klein a polygraph. He deleted his Snapchat and Instagram accounts, and they found, looking through his searches online, one of his searches, well, actually quite a few searches, of how long does DNA last? Now, when they asked him why he had searched that, he said, "I have no clue. I don't know. Probably because they DNA tested me." And when they asked him why you worried about your DNA in this case, and he responded, "I wouldn't. That's just a common thing to freak out about." No, it isn't. You wouldn't worry about it for a second if you had not been near the girls. You wouldn't be searching. So I cannot, even though they haven't charged him with any of this and they say he's not a suspect, of course, you know how that goes. For all the information that I've read on this dude, I don't see how you can rule him out. Now, there is a belief that, according to some private investigators, that they found that they believe that it was two different people using that account to send messages to girls. All right, they said, in studying the messages sent from the Anthony Schatz account, they see differences in languages and phrasing choices that make it apparent to them that at least two different people were accessing the account and using it to send messages to underage girls. The part of the polygraph that he failed is when they asked him the question, "Do you know who committed these murders?" And they said that he failed that question miserably. So they believe that he knows, that he has information. Now, on October 26th, 2022, 50-year-old Richard Allen was taken into custody and appeared in court on October 28th. On October 31st, 2022, Indiana State Police announced that the suspect had been charged with 2 counts of murder in the case.
2017 appeared in court where prosecutors told the judge he's confessed on multiple occasions. Alex Perez has the details.
Accused of murdering 2 teenage girls, suspect Richard Allen, in a yellow jumpsuit and shackles, arriving at a court hearing in Delphi, Indiana Thursday, where prosecutors told the judge Allen allegedly confessed 5 or 6 times to killing best friends Abby Williams and Libby German while he was in custody. Defense attorneys did not dispute the allegation, but argued the confession is unreliable because of his deteriorating mental and physical health, asking the judge to move him out of a maximum security prison and to another facility.
These incriminating statements that came out in court today can be used both ways. The state is going to be looking to use them to corroborate a confession, and the defense is going to be using them to support their theory that he is currently having mental health issues and needs treatment.
Since 13-year-old Abby and 14-year-old Libby's bodies were recovered back on Valentine's Day 2017, investigators zeroed in on chilling audio Libby recorded, believed to be their killer's voice. And this suspect picture Libby captured on her phone. 50-year-old Allen, a married father, charged last October after prosecutors say they linked an unspent bullet found at the crime scene to a gun Allen owns. He has pleaded not guilty. Libby German's family speaking to me after the arrest.
It's hard. How can somebody do that and then just go on living life like nothing happened? I don't understand. Probably never will understand that.
And the judge says she will consider the motion to move the suspect to a different facility, but did not say when she would announce that decision. A trial date has been set for January of next year. Mary?
Okay, Alex, we know you'll stay on this.
He pleaded not guilty. His trial was supposed to have been March 20th of this year, 2023, but it's been postponed until later at the request of the suspect's defense team. All right, now here's something I find very, very strange. Notice this picture here. Now this is, they say it's either at a bar or a restaurant bar or whatever. But up on the bulletin board there is the sketch of the suspect. And this guy's standing right in front of the sketch. You see it circled there. Now you tell me that's a coincidence. No way. No way. That is not a coincidence. Now, if you look at it looks to me like the wife, because that is his wife here, even though it's kind of grained out a little bit. If you make it smaller, you can see the face quite well. That is his wife, I think, taking the selfie. So my question is, how much does she know and not telling? Now, she did say that when they described the suspect and the kind of jacket that he was wearing, she did say, yeah, he's got a jacket like that. Now, to show you that that's his wife right there, here's another picture. Another picture of them. Not standing in front of a police sketch. Now, on November 29th, 2022, Judge Francis Skoll issued an order to unseal the probable cause affidavit that led to Ronald's arrest. Or Richard, I'm sorry. I keep wanting to call him Ronald. He looks like a Ronald. You look like Ronald, man. According to the redacted document, video footage recovered from German's phone showed one of the victims mentioning gun as a man wearing a dark jacket and jeans approached them and ordered them to go down the hill, which we've already gone over. Investigators believe the suspect is the man seen in the video. You think? Investigators also found a .40 caliber unspent round less than 2 feet from one victim's body, but between the two victims. By the way, he had removed their clothing, unknown if it was before or after they were dead, and they were found quite a way south of the position where the bodies were found. And not all the articles of clothing were there, which indicates there's a lot of these psychos. They take a souvenir. Says it was later determined that the round came from a gun owned by the suspect.
The stunning new details in the Delphi murder case. A judge unsealing documents related to the recent arrest of Richard Allen and the killings of 2 teenage girls in 2017, Libby and Abby. A determination that an unspent bullet found at this crime scene was cycled through Allen's gun. Alex Perez has that story for us and joins us here in the studio. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Robin. This is the first time we're learning how investigators zeroed in on suspect Richard Allen. Besides that bullet, authorities say a number of witnesses put Allen on the scene.
This morning, stunning new details in the mysterious murders of 2 young girls in Delphi, Indiana. A judge Tuesday defying prosecutors' requests and unsealing court documents, revealing some of what led police to charge Richard Allen with the 2017 killings of Libby German and Abby Williams.
He's been charged with 2 counts of murder.
According to the probable cause affidavit obtained by ABC News, investigators believe Allen is the man seen in this video recovered from Libby's cell phone and say the full video shows the man allegedly following the 8th graders on a bridge. One of the girls says gun. Then police say you hear the suspect's voice. Authorities say the girls do walk down a hill before the video ends, the affidavit also stating Libby and Abby's clothes were located in a nearby creek. And that when investigators carried out a search warrant at Allen's home, they seized boots, knives, and a .40 caliber gun that tests showed matched an unspent bullet found between the girls' remains. Their exact cause of death remains unclear.
Everybody's going to keep them in their minds forever.
According to that newly unsealed information, multiple witnesses placed a man resembling Allen near the Manon High Bridge where he allegedly encountered the girls just after 2 p.m. About 2 hours later, one woman told police she drove by a man on the side of the road who was wearing a blue-colored jacket, blue jeans, and was muddy and bloody. Allen's wife, the document says, confirming to authorities he owns a similar jacket. 50-year-old Allen, who was charged last month, nearly 6 years after the murders, living about 2 miles from the crime scene and working at the local CVS. Libby German's heartbroken family still in disbelief.
You know, it's hard. How can somebody do that and then just go on living life like nothing happened? I don't understand. Probably never will understand that.
Prosecutors believe there may be others linked to the crime.
If any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable.
Allen has pleaded not guilty. In that affidavit, he told police he was on the trail during the time of the murders, but denied any involvement. He also could not explain to investigators why a bullet from his gun was found at the scene, only telling police he did not allow anyone to use or borrow his weapon.
And Allen is being held without bond. He's due back in court in February. Guys?
All right, Alex, again, great to have you here in the studio with us. We're going to bring in ABC News Chief Legal Analyst Dan Abrams and ABC News contributor, former FBI agent Brad Garrett. Let me start with you, Dan, and the bullet that was found on the scene. How ironclad is that?
When you're able to link back a bullet to a particular weapon, to an identifiable weapon, it's pretty powerful evidence. But I have to say that I still have a lot of questions here.
A witness said she saw a man walking away from the bridge wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. Another witness in a tip mentioned that a car was parked oddly and appeared to be parked in a way as if to hide its license plate. Investigators said the description of the vehicle matched a vehicle that the suspect owned in 2017. According to the probable cause affidavit, the suspect was interviewed by the police in 2017 and said he was on the trail that afternoon for around 2 hours. The document also said that in a subsequent interview in October 2022, the suspect told authorities that he had worn jeans and a black or blue jacket. It was like a Carhartt jacket. And another thing I read. He had gone that day to the bridge to watch fish. Yeah. On December 2nd, Judge Gull issued a gag order until January 2023. The suspect's defense attorneys argued in a motion to move the trial out of Carroll County, which that's where Delphi is, in Carroll County, based on concerns about juror bias due to what attorneys described as the extensive media attention and the highly publicized nature of the case in the local area. A large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene, an agent wrote in the warrant. Because of the nature of the victim's wounds, it is clearly certain the perpetrator of the crime would have gotten blood on his person/clothing. Says, although the exact murder weapon is redacted in the warrant, body bags host and forensics expert Joseph Scott Morgan said that the killer likely used an edged weapon given the amount of blood found at the crime scene. In fact, another investigator said there was copious amounts. My money is an edged weapon. You're not necessarily going to get that much with the blunt type of weapon, Morgan said. Multiple deep stab wounds. The victims, according to the warrant, didn't have any defense wounds, but some articles of clothing were taken from them and removed from the scene while the killer placed the victims' bodies in what investigators called a staged manner. Director of Atlanta's Cold Case Research Institute in Atlanta metro area CSI, Cheryl McCollum, said she believes the killer likely posed the victims' bodies instead of staging for a form of gratification. Said there is a difference between a scene that is staged and a scene that is posed. If a perpetrator staged the scene, they did that for their benefit. So you try to make it look like there's an accident. Posed is for the offender's gratification. So he posed them, which just shows what a sick... Ugh. I can't even think of a word bad enough to describe this guy. Now, here's something very, very weird. This is really, really weird. And some of you may have already heard all of this. I don't know, because this is the first I've looked at it. So, but this is just my take on it. The Richard Allen worked at the local CVS pharmacy. Says CVS confirmed that Allen worked for the drugstore chain but did not specify where. The company is shocked and devastated, it said in a statement, and stands ready to cooperate with the police investigation in any way we can. Now, here's the weird part. You can't make this stuff up. Libby's grandmother, Becky Patty, and aunt, Tara German, were informed someone was in custody Wednesday. And on Friday, they learned it was Allen, who police said worked at the CVS in Delphi. Patty does not know Allen, she said, but German is a regular at the CVS and knew Allen from shopping at the store. She recalled a specific encounter with Allen following Libby's death. Here's what she said. This is Tara German, Libby's aunt. She says, I went into the store to print photos of Libby for the funeral, and he was the one who helped me. She says, I was a mess trying to get the images off of my phone. Once they were printed, he looked at me and said, I'm not going to charge you for this. Oh, how kind. Yeah, I killed her, so I'm not going to charge you for the photos. People are sick, man. They haven't really released a lot of information as far as why they consider him a suspect. They've kept a lot of it sealed. They have unsealed some of it, like the probable cause affidavit, but there's a lot of, as far as the evidential type of things, an indictment as to why they're charging him. Now, they believe that there's other people involved in this. The cops do, the investigators. And they said that they're keeping the tip lines open and are seeking information not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person you may have. But they declined to elaborate on whether they're seeking any additional suspects. I personally think they believe that Klein dude, Keegan Klein, I believe they think he's involved. I have a hard time thinking he's not, based on the fact he talked to Libby the night before and the day of and told someone else that he was going to meet her there. But, of course, they're not going to charge him until they have sufficient evidence because they don't want to hit the double jeopardy thing, as I've discussed before. Prosecutors claimed in court Thursday that Richard Allen, who was arrested last October for allegedly killing 2 Indiana teens in 2017, in the case known as the Delphi Murders, made multiple incriminating statements while in prison. The prosecution said Allen confessed 5 or 6 times to killing the girls. Allen's attorneys argued the statements are inconsistent with the suspect's previous denial of the crimes, adding that the statements shouldn't be trusted based on their client's mental state. Of course, that's what defense attorneys say. But the thing is, the statements weren't made to cops. They were made to other inmates. A couple of pictures of the bridge. Well, actually, that's the bridge going to it. Then there's another bridge that goes over, which is here. All right, now we get into the defense attorneys, which as a cop, I grew to despise greatly. I hate defense attorneys. Unless I ever get in trouble, then I'll love them. But I don't plan to. All right, it says the defense team argued in court that Allen's mental and physical health is being affected by his holding at a state maximum security prison.
For Richard Allen, he is charged with murder in the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German. Our Bob Siegel's been in the courtroom in Delphi all morning, and he joins us now live. Bob, what have you learned so far?
Gina, we've got a lot to cover from the first 2 hours of this hearing. We're on a lunch break right now. Let me start by saying the biggest thing that is happening here today is what is not happening. We expected there to be a suppression hearing on ballistics evidence about an unspent bullet that was found at the crime scene and whether that should be admissible in court. We expected that to be the focus of today's hearing, but Judge Fran Gall decided that that is going to be rescheduled for a different day. So for the time being, that important decision is put on hold. So the focus now today has been on whether or not Richard Allen should remain in a state maximum security prison. His defense attorney, Brad Rosie, spent the morning trying to lay out a very compelling case for why keeping Richard Allen in a maximum security prison is not only having a huge impact in his deteriorating health, but also it's really preventing the defense from being able to effectively be able to prepare a case for trial. So some of the witnesses I can tell you we heard from today, we heard from an intern that works with the defense team. He explained just how crazy difficult it's been getting in and out of the Westfield maximum security prison. He described how Richard Allen is essentially led through that prison. He described in his word as a dog, that he is on a chain leash when he is paraded through the halls, as they described it, with chains on his feet and his hands in chains as well, that when they try to meet with him to talk about their defense, that those meetings have been videotaped by the Westfield Correctional Facility. We heard from Captain Gary Lewis. He oversees the maximum security unit at Westville, and he said that to the best of his knowledge, in the 5 years that he has been there in that unit, Richard Allen is the only pre-trial defendant to ever be housed there. And the defense basically explained how things are much different in county jails where it is much easier to get access. And they said that because of the conditions that Richard Allen is in at the Westfield Correctional Facility, he has deteriorated so much that he's not even really able to help in his own defense right now. So the defense said that they had worked out an agreement for Richard Allen to be moved to the Cass County Jail, which is only about 20 minutes away from here. We heard from the sheriff in Cass County, and he said in his words, when it comes to Richard Allen, we don't want him. But he said that if the court orders them to take Richard Allen, the sheriff said that they would be able to, in their words, house him securely, and that they would be willing to do that. So we have heard this morning from the defense and the reasons why they don't believe that Richard Allen should remain in a state maximum security prison. They want him moved closer here to Carroll County. This afternoon, we will hear the prosecutor explain why they feel differently. Now, a couple other really important notes to pass along here. Both the prosecutor and the defense this morning referred to incriminating statements that Richard Allen made in prison, essentially a confession of sorts. The defense team, and by the way, we haven't heard much more about that other than passing references to it. The defense pointed out that whatever was said was very general and very inconsistent with Richard Allen's previous comments. We expect to hear more about that this afternoon. Also, we want to pass along that Judge Gall announced that she is going to unseal lots of documents that are currently still kept under seal in this case, and that is going to come next week. I'll point out, Richard Allen, I was sitting inches away from him when he walked in and out of court this morning. He does not look like the Richard Allen that we saw months ago. He is looking incredibly frail. He has lost a tremendous amount of weight. He was being held on both sides by police officers escorting him in. And at one point, he actually shook back and forth, and it prompted one of the officers to come up and hold him more tightly by the arm. He does look shaky, and he does look very frail. And that is part of the defense's argument here about the fact that where he is currently being held, he has deteriorated so much that he is not able to help in his own defense. We're going to have a lot more information to share here this afternoon. Right now, we're on a short break for a lunch recess, and we will be back in court in just a few minutes. We will have much more and what comes out of this hearing this afternoon coming up on the news at 5 and at 6. Gina, back to you.
All right, Bob, critical intel from Delphi, Indiana, an evolving case. We'll see you at 5 o'clock. Thank you, Bob.
Where he was transferred to due to concerns that Allen could not be held safely at Carroll County Jail. Max Baker, an intern for the defense counsel, said that Allen is being treated like a dog. Woof, woof. Being transported through the Westville Correctional Facility in shackles on his arms and legs with a metal chain around his neck. That's procedure. Okay, if he was being treated like a dog, they'd put a leash on him. Gary Lewis, who oversees the maximum security unit at Westfield Correctional, testified that Allen is the only pretrial inmate in that unit that he has known who was 5 years in the facility. He added that Allen is not being treated any differently than every other maximum security inmate, which I'm sure that's true. Says Allen's attorneys filed a motion in April to have him moved to Cass County Jail due to his alleged poor holding conditions at Westfield Correctional. Yeah, like a local county jail is going to be any better. Yeah. Claiming the conditions were affecting his mental and physical well-being. Whatever. The Cass County Sheriff said in court that he doesn't want to keep Allen at Cass County Jail due to security issues when housing a high-profile inmate. But the sheriff added that he would be willing to accept Allen if ordered by the court, saying his facility is well-equipped to house him. Yeah, if you're ordered by the court, you ain't got no choice. So you better be willing because you ain't got no choice. If it's a court order, you have to comply. Copper, stop it. He's being a turd. All right, we're asking for basic human rights. We're not asking to put him in the Holiday Inn, Allen's lawyer, Brad Rossi, said. Oh, by the way, how about Libby and Abby's human rights? Yeah, how about their human rights? Yeah, you're worried about some scumbag that killed 2 girls, allegedly. Although he did finally confess. You're worried about this scumbag, but yet you've got... Hang on just a second. I need to deal with something. All right. Now I got to figure out where I was. You are being a turd. Yes, you are. He's a good dog, but every once in a while he gets in these moods and he's going to be pain in the butt. And it's not even dinner time yet. All right, let's see. Okay. Oh, yeah. At the hearing, there was also a brief discussion on an earlier motion filed to dismiss ballistic evidence. It was ultimately decided this would be reviewed at a later date. The probable cause affidavit reviewed detail how Indiana State Police analyzed the gun belonging to Allen, which after testing was linked to an unspent round that investigators found at the crime scene, lying in between the bodies of the two teenage victims. Allen's attorneys had previously questioned the analysis that was done on the bullet, of course, that connected Allen to the crime. The judge also announced that several documents that have been kept sealed for the duration of Allen's hearings would be unsealed and available. All right, Allen's trial is to begin in January 2024. All right, so what they did is it was an unspent round, which means that it was all intact, that the actual bullet had not been fired, which means either that the bullet itself was a dud, which is probably the case, or that the gun jammed and he just ejected it, which he was very stupid not to pick it up. He also told the cops that he never lent the gun to anybody. So the very fact that he had this gun with him and probably knives, because he was a knife collector, had a lot of knives they found when they searched his place. And of course, everybody says from the amount of blood and stuff that even though the cops had not released the cause of death, that it pretty much had to be an edged weapon and deep stab wounds to have that much blood, as we saw before. So the bullet was between the bodies. Ballistics showed it was from his gun. It was a .40 caliber. So maybe he was using the gun. He was going to kill him with the gun, and then it jammed and whatever, and so he just ejected the bullet and then started going after him with a knife. And there was no defensive wounds, which young girls like that, I can understand that, because now an older person would try to fight back. But young girls like that, 13 and 14, there's a good chance that they just froze. That they were just like, I mean, here they were going out for a hike. We're going to be gone for, less than 2 hours. Dropped off at 1:35. Dad was going to pick them up at 3:15. And here they are just out for a hike, and they probably went there quite a bit, honestly. It's only a few miles from Delphi. So they probably actually went there quite a bit. Probably went for their walk. Probably, maybe it's their weekly walk. Who knows? It doesn't say in anything I've read how often that they went there. But here they're going out for a walk, and this guy all of a sudden meets them on the trestle and tells them to go down the hill underneath the bridge. And then he walked them half a mile, because he didn't drag them that far, I'm guarantee you. And the clothes were found not all that super far south of where they were. But either he took the clothes there or he had them undressed there at that spot. And then walked them up to where they were killed and posed. Man, this one really tugs at me. Same way that Kylie's did. I just can't imagine what it would have been like for those girls. I just can't imagine. But I showed you kind of the approximate area where the bodies were probably found. I haven't found any map in my research that shows exactly where it was, but said it was a half a mile east on the north bank. So it's probably, and it was on that guy Mr. Logan's property. Logan was the suspect at first, and he died in 2020. So no, I don't think it was. I think that Alan or whoever, or Keegan Klein walked him up. But I think the fact that Alan, it was a bullet from Alan's gun found there between the bodies, but that doesn't mean he acted alone. Because if there were multiple people using that account of Klein's, who's to say that Klein and Allen didn't know each other or even met online and were sharing the account? Because they really haven't released all that much information about that, so I don't know what they've investigated about that or what they haven't, which is frustrating. It's like, what is it? What's the deal with, withholding? I mean, I can understand them withholding certain information. They don't want to compromise the investigation until it's over and done with, because it just sounds like they think that there's multiple people involved, not just Alan. But for me, Klein would be person number 2, especially since he told somebody he was supposed to meet with Libby the day they were killed. But now, if you were to go to the start of the trail, you'll see a memorial honoring both of these girls. And I'll show the pictures here as we close this video. But to me, the memorial just is a sad reminder of just how sick some people can be. Rest in peace.
you.